Jeff Harris is here, is council member from District 3, and also Kelly Rivas representing the mayor's office. This is the first of 4 sessions that we're going to have, 3 on topics related to economic development, and then a 4th that will be priority setting. What we're doing is following a model that we used around youth providers, where we brought together up to 80 different organizations and asked them the question of what we should be doing for our young people and how we should spend our money to get the best chances of success. We wanted to try something similar with the business community. We know that we have probably state dollars that will be coming down the pike, and we also have the American Rescue Plan dollars, of which we got our first tranche over $50 million this morning. My hope is that through these 4 sessions, we will develop a set of recommendations that will then be presented to the council saying, these are our priorities, and this is what we think is the best way to spend our dollars. We'll do that for challenges that are both short-term and long-term. Again, we'll then provide recommendations to the city. And I also hope that this will be a step towards more deeply involving the business community in not only the life of the city, but in the policy decisions that we make going forward. I think you all have a tremendous amount to offer, and we don't always take advantage of what's in our own backyard as far as getting good recommendations and good coherent policy coming out of our own folks, and those recommendations going to the city council. It worked with our youth providers, so the challenge for you all is, can you match up to those who take care of our young people? I have confidence that you can, and very excited to be here today. This session is really about our urban corridors and our neighborhoods. The other sessions that we'll have, one will be specifically clean and safe and quality of life, which will touch on the homeless issues that we have. And then we'll also talk specifically about the downtown. Those sessions will be next week, and at the end we'll give you the dates and times of those. We hope you can do all of them. It's 2 hours times 3, plus the priority setting session will probably be between an hour and a half. So a relatively short amount of time where we hope to get, again, your input, your recommendations on all of this. When we started putting this one together, I tried to think who in the city could I ask to help facilitate what we're doing. And there was one individual who came to mind, which is a longtime friend and co-conspirator in many things that we've done, which is Scott Syfax, who is these days a consultant for Syfax Strategic, and is one of, I think, the most, one of the smartest people I know, but also has just a good handle on the knowledge it takes to both run a business, to be successful in a business, and also a larger viewpoint about the city, and who cares deeply, I know, about the city of Sacramento. So with that, I hope that we can ask you a couple of housekeeping things. One is to put your name and phone number, I'm old there, name and email address in the chat, just so we can keep a list of who's actually attended and make sure that we can get back to you if we need to keep you involved. I know that Councilmember Harris is here. Councilmember Guerra will be joining us in about 6 minutes or so, so he'll be here. So we are underneath a quorum, and we'll keep it at that for the City Council. We want to do some very quick introductions of who you are and who you represent. So I'm just going to call names and just give us the who and the what. And if there's one very quick thing that you want to say about why you're here, that would be great. Tina Reynolds, can we start with you? And I will give you who's next also, so you can go off mute. Megan, you would be next. Tina?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Tina Reynolds with Uptown Studios. Our office is at 23rd and Broadway, and we have been impacted by COVID, but we're surviving and going strong. Thanks for inviting me, Megan.
Okay, Megan and then Jen.
Megan Van Voorst, Creative Economy Manager for the City of Sacramento, and I'm just here to listen.
Okay, Jen and then Everin.
Hi, Jen Blanc with Kaiser Permanente. Really here to listen and learn, as well as knowing that, you know, our neighborhoods and corridors are really important to, you know, the mission of Kaiser Permanente. So happy to be here.
Great, Everin and then Emily.
Good afternoon. This is Evren Yilmaz from Sacramento State Center for Small Business. I'm here for networking and finding service learning projects for our students in the fall semester.
Great, Emily and then Dimitri.
Hi, Emily Cameron with the Downtown Sacramento Partnership, representing the Central Business District and Historic Old Sacramento Waterfront.
Okay, Dimitri and then Valerie.
Hey there, Dimitri Goodman with Cap City. Always looking to help out our city here.
Okay, Valerie and then Selena.
Good afternoon. I'm Valerie Mamoni with the City of Sacramento with the Office of Innovation and Economic Development.
Okay, Selena and then Pat.
Hi, everybody. I'm Selena Pryor. I'm the president of Black Small Business Association of California, and I am here to make sure that what we found in working with the city gets kind of inserted in whatever it is that we come up with. So we're excited to be here and be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat and then Leslie.
Pat Fonkushida, presidency of the Sacramento and California Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce and part of the Sacramento Inclusive Economic Development Collaborative, about 15 organizations that represent the urban corridors in the city of Sacramento.
Okay, Leslie and then Jameson.
Leslie Fritchie, City's Office of Innovation and Economic Development, and always interested to participate in things to talk about the neighborhoods and commercial corridors. Always on the listen and learn, and glad to be with you today to do that and figure out strategies moving forward. So thank you for allowing us to participate.
Great, and we're glad you're here. Brandon and then Tracy.
Hi everyone, Brandon Ito with Kaiser Permanente, here to listen and learn.
Great, Tracy and then Kelly.
I'm Tracy Shaw, and I am representing the Sacramento Inclusive Economic Development Collaborative, 15 organizations that came together under the CARES umbrella to provide technical assistance to our minority small businesses. And I'm here just to listen and learned a lot through the first CARES, and look forward to fine tuning and working on what we learned. Thanks.
Okay, Kelly and then user 06's iPhone.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kelly Von Rivas here with the Mayor's Office, here to listen.
Okay, user 06's iPhone.
User 06 is Patrick Mulvaney. Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Just looking forward to see how the city comes out of the pandemic in a strong way, especially for the hospitality industry.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Maria and then Dawn.
Hello, everyone. This is Maria with the director of the Capital Region SBDC, and here just to listen as well as be of support to continue to provide, the best technical assistance for our businesses in Sacramento. And thank you again for the invitation.
Okay, Dawn, and then Emily. Don Carlson, and then Emily Bain.
Dawn's not able to speak. Her mic isn't working.
Okay, Emily, and then Jameson, I think I skipped you. We'll go back to you.
This is Emily, and on behalf of Jameson, I'm just kidding. Emily with the Midtown Association. Hi, everybody. Great to see so many faces, all working towards reopening and getting some resources out to our community. So thank you for the effort and glad to be here.
Okay, thank you. Jameson?
Yeah, Jameson Parker, Midtown Association. Thanks for having us.
Okay, and then we have some city staff and District 5 staff. Ulysses?
Hello, Ulysses Arzola with Vice Mayor's Office.
And Denise?
Hi, good afternoon. Denise Malvetti with the city's Office of Innovation and Economic Development.
And Allison?
Good afternoon. Allison Joe with Vice Mayor Scheniner's office. Good to see you all.
Claudia, and then Hillary.
Claudia Jason with Jay's office.
Hillary.
Hillary Coy, I am with Jay's office as a district rep.
Okay, did I miss anyone? Mr. Harris, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. I'm Jay's colleague, and I think you know I represent District 3.
Great, thank you. All right, at this point, I want to turn it over to Mr. Syfax, and he will lead us through the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, Jay, and welcome, everyone. It is so good to see you all, even though it's virtually at this moment. It's nice to see not only so many familiar faces, but so many faces that, to be quite frank with you, over the past year, I haven't had the pleasure of running into very much because of the circumstances that bring us all here today. And talking about what brings us all here today is really about how is it that we get back not only to where we were before the circumstances of the pandemic hit our city, our region, our state, and our country, and frankly, our world, but also use the learnings that we've gotten over the years, not just to build back, but in the words of, I believe it's someone in Washington said, build back better than we have before. And so this moment, and also the Recovery Act, that acts that have taken place over the past few months, culminating with the one that was most recently passed, give us a rare opportunity to not quite take a blank sheet of paper and design and execute better, but an opportunity to have the conversations about things that are immediately within our grasp, but also some things that, frankly, we said probably couldn't have been looked at before just because things were the way they were. This is a moment for reimagination, and this is a meeting about reimagination. So over the next hour and a half or so, we are going to do a couple of things. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the state of our economic landscape as it is today, and where we've come from, and a few projections as to where it is that we're going to go. The second thing that we're going to do is give all of you an opportunity to answer a few very discrete questions about what is it that is not only affecting you, but affecting your colleagues as well, and what the city should be doing and could be doing in order to support not just recovery back to where we were before, but hopefully taking the success of our city to a wholly different level than it's experienced in the past. Now, I want to pause for just a moment and just say to each and every one of you that either run a business, represent a collection of businesses, or are just interested in the economic vitality of our city and our region, I want to say thank you, because you all have endured and survived. And sometimes in the crush of the moment, we don't take a moment to acknowledge that every single day was an adventure over the life of this pandemic, and has been difficult for many, in fact, fatally so for some. But that you all have not only endured, but you've kept the faith. And for that, all of us, whether we're elected officials, whether we're your colleagues, whether we're your customers, we all owe you and the rest of the business community a real debt of gratitude. And thank you for hanging on and keeping on, keeping on. We're going to transition now and talk a little bit about just the landscape as it presents itself today. And so I'm going to ask Yuli to help me walk you through just a couple of level setting slides, so that way we all come into our breakout sessions in a way where we are operating from the same fact base. Now, after those breakout sessions, we're going to do a report out where we're going to essentially take your ideas and move that forward. And then all of those are going to be collected. And as we go through the series of the next few meetings, ultimately, we're going to collect all those, take the best and the most leverageable of those. And that's what's going to go into the process for city consideration on how it is that we spend some of those dollars that are going to be coming into the city, and work on the possibilities, not just on program, but also think about what is it that we can do beyond that, so that you all and the constituencies you represent are truly leveraged for success. Because while it is that each one of us has had to walk our journeys, you know, in terms of our own businesses and our own interests, collectively there is a lot that I believe that we can do together. So Yuli, can you advance to the next slide? So every good meeting, in order to be productive, at least as I practice it, should have some ground rules. And we've got a couple that we would like to share with you and ask you just to use these as rules of the road in terms of how it is that we deal with each other. When you go into your breakout rooms, everybody participates. And I know that there are people, and I tend to be one of the people that's guilty of this, where it is that sometimes I can go on at length. Please be respectful of your colleagues, because we need to get everybody's input in order to come up with the best possible alternatives and possibilities that we can move forward on and execute on. So everyone participates, no one dominates. And I'd ask you all to hold yourselves and each other accountable for that. The second, let's build on ideas. And let's try, if someone's got a good idea, but you think it could be tweaked a little bit, build on it, try to improve it. Let's not have any pride of authorship here, but let's really work on trying to get the best ideas and to crystallize them in a way that they are considerable and actionable. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, okay? Life is serious enough. Many of you know each other or heard of each other. And let's come together and just try and, while we have serious issues to deal with, let's give each other grace and operate in a spirit of generosity, which includes humor. Which brings me to, we've got hard issues to deal with. So let's go hard on the issues, but not on people. Generally, we know where the problems are at, and we can surface those and bring those forward, but let's stay away from personalizing the issues to people. Let's work really hard on the issues, but go easy and have some grace with each other. When it comes to bike rack, or what some call parking lot issues that are off topic, we don't have a lot of time together, and I would ask you all to remain on topic and focused. That's the best way to use the energy and creativity of this business community to try and come up with solutions. And I don't know if anyone's got something that either I've missed or something on that current list, excuse me, that you don't think is applicable. But if you do, here's your moment to offer something up in addition. Does anyone have anything to offer in terms of ground rules for our engagement with each other today? Okay, well, if we're going to go once, going twice, and closed. All right, Yuli, can you move to our next slide? So let's talk for a moment on the state of what is. In terms of our unemployment rate currently, as you can see from this slide, we were operating in, close to what it is that typically the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Federal Reserve and others call about as close to full employment as possible. And while some take exception with that notion, by and large, the job market was performing very well before the pandemic. You see the spike and you see the gradual decrease right there, but we still have an overall employment rate that is stuck at right about 7% right now. What's interesting about that, and maybe there'll be some commentary in the breakout rooms about this, is that while we do have this somewhat stubborn 7% unemployment rate within the city, what I hear from business owners all over, not just Sacramento, but the entire region, in fact, all over the United States in my travels, is that there is a real difficulty in finding workers in a number of different industries. And maybe you all can talk about that and talk about some ideas. Next slide. So let's talk about the tail of the tape. Tremendous losses in hospitality, as you can see. We had a significant loss of jobs just within our metropolitan statistical area. And if you break out those numbers from March to March, as you can see, it's significant. Ironically, the one area where we did see some gains is in construction. And that is because the good news, bad news is that the United States has discovered Sacramento for lots of different reasons, but it has driven at least that sector to perform in a way that is counter-cyclical to the way that most other sectors have had to endure during the recession. Next slide, please. On the retail leasing market, as you can see that going into the recession, our leasing environment, both in terms of vacancy rate and price per square foot, was performing as you might expect. But post the beginning of the pandemic, as you can see, the spike in vacancy rate in particular has been problematic, and that is both within the downtown, as you'll see coming up, but also within the neighborhood corridors that are so important to the vitality of our city. Next slide, please. In terms of the office market, much the same. If you look at the data right there, people in the office leasing market, one of the things that we were talking about with my colleagues in the development community was how were we going to put more production online and what that was going to look like for the future prior to the pandemic. Today, one of the big questions that people are asking is, given the changes that have been forced on us by COVID, even the nature of this meeting that we're participating in right now, what does that mean long-term for the vitality of the office leasing marketplace and the viability of business models that were predicated on a particular price per square foot in order to make the numbers work? That's an issue that in some ways is going to be felt differently depending on what neighborhood you're in, what commercial corridor you're in, or whether you're in the central business district. But the net of all of this is that we don't know what the new configuration of people's work styles and employers' work demands are going to be. And I'm sure that all of you are having conversations or a part of conversations with friends, with families, with work colleagues on what does it look like returning back to work, and will things ever go back to the status quo? And if not, how is it that those of us who depend on that traffic that flows from the commercial office market and workplace market, how is that going to affect our businesses? Next slide, please. The downtown impact, and even though this is a neighborhood-focused conversation, I do want to share with you a little bit of data about the downtown. Within the DSP area, 12% of the businesses are permanently closed. While the good news is that we've had a significant amount of sheer dogged determination on the part of the business owners within the area, within the DSP area, with the vast majority of them staying open. it has definitely the lack of foot traffic and the population of office buildings during the day, particularly the state of California, has affected overall traffic and receipts. And as a cascading outcome, sales tax revenue within the downtown dropped 35% in Q1 to Q2 of 2020. And the general retail had a 70% drop. The number of businesses since April 2020, well, you can see the number for yourself. And obviously we'd like to see a lot more, but that's just a microcosm of what has happened downtown. Ironically, each neighborhood has had their own sets of issues and frankly, benefits in some cases. In some cases, what I've heard, at least anecdotally, is that neighborhood corridors in some places have actually benefited because with people at home within their communities, neighborhood traffic has done a little bit better. That doesn't mean that they haven't suffered the same problems. It just means that they've presented themselves differently. And one of the reasons that Vice Mayor Schenirer wanted to structure these conversations in the way that he had was to ensure that neighborhood-specific issues really got their due in their day in terms of a focus on what the unique needs are within those corridors and within those communities. Next slide, please. So today, as I said, the issue of the day are neighborhood issues and talking about what's working, what's not, and what is it that the city can do, particularly with regards to this new funding that is coming into play in the coming weeks and months in order to help the neighborhoods really turn the corner, or if they happen to have done, sustain themselves overall decently through the pandemic, how it is that they can take it to the next level. Now, there's a big issue that is always front and center, whether we're talking about neighborhoods or the downtown, that there was an absence of in terms of the data. And that was the issue that we continue to all talk about and be challenged by, which is issues related to homelessness, clean and safe, and quality of life. We are going to deal with those, but not in this session. We have a specific session to carry to deal with those issues. And so what I would ask you to do is to participate in that particular upcoming session, which we'll talk about at the end of this, but to stay focused on getting all of your creativity and all of your insights on focusing how it is that we can do our best by our neighborhoods and the communities that those neighborhood corridors support. So with that, we're going to break you all out into individual breakout sessions. Before we go out, I want to describe a little bit, next slide please, about how these breakout sessions are going to work. So your assignments are random. And so there is no such thing, I want to be completely clear, there is no such thing as the cool kids room. All of you are cool kids. That's why you're here. So there is no special room. So whatever room you're in, that's a great room, okay? So first and foremost, completely random assignments. The second is, you may notice that there may be members of the council in the room. They're going to be in listening mode. We have some particular, and I would say peculiar issues that we have to deal with in order to stay in compliance with the Brown Act. And so the council members, in order to make sure that we are in full compliance with applicable law and regulation, they're going to be in listening mode. What I would ask all of you to do is, every room requires a facilitator. So someone has to take the long oar and be the facilitator for your particular room to lead the conversation. A member of the staff, the city staff that is with us, will scribe and take notes. And just to remind you all that those breakout sessions will be recorded because we don't want to miss anything. We've given you 3 questions, and we want to focus you on these 3 questions. That is not to say that if you have an idea or a potential initiative that doesn't fall within these 3 questions, that you can't pose it. But we are asking you all to stay focused on these because that is going to provide us the richest data set in order to aggregate, collect, and to find out where the intensity of the need is. So again, I would ask you all to focus on those discussion questions. After we're done with the breakouts and you all have participated, worked your way through the questions and all of that's been scribed, we're going to do report outs so that we can learn from each other before it is that we talk about our next steps and finally close out to allow you to return to your day. So I want to pause there for 1 second and find out before it is that Yuli sends us all to our breakouts. Are there any questions that anyone wants to ask? Or Vice Mayor Schenirer, is there anything that I missed?
No, nothing that you missed, Scott, but we have a few people who have joined since we did introductions. So maybe we can go back to that screen, Yuli, if that's possible, and ask those who did not introduce themselves to do that. I know Councilmember Guerra is here.
Hey, good morning. Now, good afternoon, everyone. I was on a different link there, but glad to be here and glad to listen in.
Okay, I believe Amanda Blackwood from the Chamber.
Hello, Amanda Blackwood, President and CEO of the Metro Chamber. I think Eric and I were in the same the same vortex, Zoom vortex. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, and anyone else? I'm not sure if others joined. Okay, Scott, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. So with that, if there are no questions or no comments, Yuli, go ahead and sign up. Good luck, everyone.
Well, and we just need to give people a time. So we'll reconvene at 1:30. So you'll have a little over 50 minutes to have the conversation. And then what we're expecting is maybe a 5-minute report out from each of the 3 groups that people can do. And then we'll talk about how this information is going to be compiled and used as we go forward in the process.
Sounds good. All right. Good luck, everybody. Can't wait to hear what comes out of these breakouts.
The rooms are now open for everyone to join in.
And Yuli, you're going to stick around in the main room?
Yes, I know people will be coming.
Okay. All right.
And Scott will stay in the main room as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
So why don't we take about 5 minutes per group and hear what was the discussion and what ideas rose to the top. So why don't we start with group 1? And I believe that Allison, you were facilitating that one.
Yeah, I was, and I think I was not actually. Maria was the lead on that in the facilitation. I was just nudging and representing where I needed to. But I actually think that Pat was going to give the report out on that with some support as we need to.
Ms. Fong Kushida, the floor is always yours.
Thank you. And Maria did such a fantastic job summarizing at the end. I was just going to send her a private note saying she should do this because she did such a great job at the end, but I didn't have a chance to push my button. So I'll try and do my best. So the question was asked, the very first question is really, what would it take for our, what are some of the things that are going to hinder the success of our businesses for the reopening? we really came across, I think, about 5 or 6 different things, and I'm just going to throw them out. The first thing is really around the whole notion of workforce and the inability to hire. Scott, you alluded to that in your brief overview, and we're finding in real time that that is the case, not only in Main Street businesses, but on small businesses on the corridors as well. The other thing is really the uncertainty and the mandate around safety and opening safely, right? The ebb and flow of what's transpired over the course of the last year and a half. We know we're all headed towards 80% vaccination rate, but there's still that uncertainty and really the mandate around what we need to do to make sure that our customers and our employees are safe, and maybe some grace around that. The other thing we talked about was really around how technology has really created this I guess the have and the have not in terms of how people can quickly pivot to be able to get fully back in business, right? A lot of our smaller businesses didn't have the opportunity around technology, and in some cases, we really didn't even have an online presence. And so technology, we think, is really going to hinder folks unless there's a concentrated effort to get them, fully part of that technology opportunity. The other area that we think is really important is really the in-language piece and really around the access piece and really making sure that whatever the city does to try and help these businesses, that it's fully communicated in such a way that's it's accessible and it's in language and it's language specific. It was brought up that there's a lot of small businesses that, each small business is unique, but a lot of the challenges around access to any type of city programs or any type of programs that might help them, the ability to continue to access those successfully and to create an infrastructure to be able to do that is extremely important. And so we talked about the language opportunity, the access opportunity. We also talked about from a policy perspective, because we think that was also a question about, what the city can do from a policy perspective to help. And we do think that the adoption of ordinances that are well-intended might have the opposite effect in the near term. And we use the electrification ordinance as an example. We know that there have been carve-outs for restaurants and manufacturers, and that that will sunset at some point. And then the city will go into a waiver strategy for folks that might want to, ask for more time. But we think that the unintended consequence of that is really going to affect particularly our minority businesses. And we think that the city should do a better job of looking at the cost benefit analysis before they adopt those types of ordinances and give us more of a grace in terms of transitioning into a lot of these things, because we think that that's, it's one thing that folks can afford an electric vehicle and afford to be able to repurpose their entire business and electrify. It's another thing to even be able to afford to turn the gas on, right? I mean, to turn the electric lights on. So we've really got to think about the unintended consequences of these ordinances and how it impacts the most vulnerable of our community. The other thing we talked about from a policy perspective, if the city's intent on ensuring that all of our businesses have an equal opportunity to prosper and to succeed, that a small business utilization program would benefit. We know that there's going to be a lot of money coming in.
Excuse me, Pat. You're down to 1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to go really fast. We know there's a lot of money available for infrastructure projects within the city because a lot of money's flowing down from the feds. So we think that that's an important opportunity that we might want to consider. And then we just want to make sure that, and this was brought up, that the city could benefit from a survey, a citywide survey for small businesses that certainly the community could help with, and that clear communication in language would be important around that. And then just to utilize your partners, your community-based partners, your business organizations, your PBIDs and others to help really, get your communication out and your programs. Did I do okay, guys? Did I miss anything?
That was great, Pat.
All right.
You had one more idea, I believe, that came from Emily related to insurance. Wasn't it?
Emily? Emily, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It was just,
Go ahead.
So activations and events, which we know support our business community and have an economic impact, are becoming harder and harder to do. One, for a labor reason, but also insurance, in particular on the West Coast, has dramatically gone up. And it's something that, as we're trying to incentivize events and activations, we're going to need to consider how we support event producers to make that a reality.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Group 1. Much appreciated. Breakout group number 2. Who speaks for you?
Who was in group 2?
Tina, since I was taking notes, would it be helpful if I?
Is it our group? Okay, I'll give a little bit of an overview and then I'll turn it over to you because I did not take notes.
Okay.
Pat, you just did a great job and you hit so many of the areas that we hit in our group. I think that some of the challenges of businesses moving forward is that the same things that Pat said. It's hard to get the workforce back into the building if they're not required to. My company, everybody's working remotely and only 5 of them want to come back and everybody else wants to work remote, which leaves me with a big, beautiful building. And that's consistent across many of the businesses that are out there. Some of the immediate and concrete actions, we had a concentration. We had Patrick Mulvaney and Jen Ablog and the Midtown Business Association. So we kind of had a group that was centered around Midtown. Having the relaxed opportunities to build decks and for the restaurants and to extend and to take the parking spaces. I don't think that should go away. If you have been down Capitol and 19th where the Rind is, or no, I think it's on L Street where the Rind is, they built this beautiful deck that's extended out. That's adding to the ambiance. What we heard was that our street is a place. It's a place that's been developed and all the businesses work together. Midtown is more helter-skelter. We need to create all of these places like 20th and K, 20th and J, keep 20th Street closed, keep Capitol closed. Let's maintain this because it's creating an ambiance that people are out and about now and they're starting to come out. If the city could spend funds on one program, what we mainly heard was to fund the PBIDs and the chambers to provide training that's more than group training. It is one-on-one and going into the small businesses along Broadway, on Florin, on Franklin, all of these small businesses that really don't even know how to reach out and have access to these programs that can help them run a better business. And now I'll turn it over to you to go into some of the details because we covered a lot.
Well, I'm going to add things that I haven't heard from you or the first group because it mirrors very much the previous group. I think what we talked about and what came up was that childcare is a big issue and it is a business issue and needs to be treated that way. And also mental health and supporting your employees with their mental health. We heard about some creative ways businesses are trying to do that, but that it also needs to be part of the conversation. And finally, in terms of challenges, there's this sense of uncertainty around what's going to happen with regulations that have been created during COVID, regulations that might be new, makes it very difficult for long-range planning. In terms of things that would help, things I didn't hear previously, to incentivize businesses to take the wood off their windows and to incentivize them to upkeep their buildings. Around keeping street closures to address the potential pushback from the city around loss of parking fees. There was a challenge from this group that the city should analyze the number and see if they might make it up in sales tax because the closure of the streets has increased many of these businesses turnout. And let's see, the other thing was just equity, 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 that many of us would consider ourselves in a privileged group. And as we think about moving forward with supports and services, that we maintain equity also at the center of our thinking. And that could mean everything from targeting these corridors that were mentioned by Tina, making sure everything's language appropriate, and using what I would call a trusted messenger to approach perhaps someone new who is not quite warming up to coaching and counseling, but through a trusted messenger, they would step in, make themselves vulnerable, and really get the support they need.
30 seconds, Claudia.
And Scott, just to say that group 2 was the cool kids, that we were the cool kids.
Duly noted, Tina. Duly noted. All right, let's move on to our last group, group 3. You're on.
I'm going to do, so I would echo our conversations were very similar, wouldn't you say, team 3? A couple things that I think, fatigue has not really been mentioned. I think mental health, and fatigue go hand in hand, but, businesses, and I think all of us can say that we are exhausted. And so now it's time to recover. And how do we go about doing that? Consumer confidence in ways that we could look at, impacting that, because I think it's still a challenge. What we're calling restart, businesses that have had to pivot or now need to figure out what's next, what's 2.0, and they don't know what that is. And so that's a challenge. The additional disadvantages that small businesses have around language and cultural barriers continue to exist and are very real and front and center. And startups, there has been very little opportunity in funding because they don't meet the parameters that have been outlined by a lot of the federal and state programs in terms of the amount of time in business. And then lastly, it's been talked about, but I think it's on everyone's mind, is workforce and getting people, employed and being able to have folks being able to get their workforce up to capacity. In terms of concrete and immediate needs, consistency and programmatic efforts, making sure that just because it's the end of our fiscal year, that we don't, have any gaps in funding or access to programs and services, and then obviously figuring out if there's a way that we can, play a role in this workforce issue that is really impeding a lot of our small businesses and businesses in general in terms of getting back to the capacity that they need to be at. And then in our third was really around what would be the one thing that the city could focus on. Well, our group is a group of overachievers. And so there was not just one thing that really rose to the top. I would say, we talked a lot about, the startup restart, needs, and that could be, around a revolving, loan fund or access to capital for these businesses that can't access funds through either a bank or a CDFI. So being able to, look at some type of vehicle that would allow them to access capital. We also discussed, creating space and opportunity to help with business confidence as well as consumer confidence, whether that be, marketing events, shop local, re-engage in your community, we're reopen. And then also the last component is, really looking at the losses that hospitality faced. And looking at those employees that obviously have been so hard, have been obviously the most hard hit, as well as the businesses. And what does it look like to help those folks, transition to a different career path, whether that be in a booming industry like construction. So Selena, Dimitri, Jay, Leslie, Valerie, Lynette, did I miss anything?
You did an awesome job.
Well, we had an awesome facilitator, so you made my job easy.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And
Thanks.
You gotta get Jay on the TikTok videos.
Oh yeah, that's right. We decided that we were gonna add a little humor. Thanks, Dimitri. We're gonna add a little humor back into our lives because it has been such a trying. So Jay graciously volunteered to do a TikTok, right, Jay?
You betcha.
All right. Well, thank you, Group 3, and we all look forward to Vice Mayor Scheniner's TikTok debut. I'm sure that it will go viral with millions of views.
It's not a debut, Scott.
Oh, now that is
I'm
breaking
teasing.
news.
No, I'm teasing. Sorry.
That is breaking news. So that concludes the report outs. I wanted just to, Yuli, I want to share with everybody where this goes from here. So we do have a schedule of next meetings. And so as you can see, we've checked the first box, which is we've talked to neighborhood business. Thank you so much all for your participation, your thoughts, your observations, and your proposals. We will follow that with a focused discussion on downtown issues on Monday, May 24th, followed by clean and safe and quality of life, which I know is a big issue that permeates all of our discussions. And then finally, we're going to go to priority setting. And so we all hope that you will join us along the way. And in particular, that you join us for the priority setting so that you can continue as you leave this moment today. You may have some other thoughts, you may work on some ideas to flesh out some of the discussions you had with the members of your breakout session. And if there's something more to contribute along the way, I know that Vice Mayor Schenirer and the other members of the city staff would welcome to hear from you for any further detail or follow-up. Before we conclude, I want to give the floor to Vice Mayor Schenirer for some closing comments and thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Scott, and thank you so much for helping to facilitate today. I think it was great. Really thoughtful conversation, and I learned a few things and got a bunch of ideas out of it. Look forward to hearing all the recordings, actually. Just process-wise, what we'll do, so we'll do 2 more sessions. I hope that you all can come to the others as well, because you'll meet new people, have different relationships started, and I think hear different things because of the different viewpoints that people will have. So I don't think it will be, just more of the same. I think it will be another very good conversation. What we'll do is after the 3 sessions, we'll take all the information. We'll try to kind of bundle things by like-minded strategies and suggestions. And then in the priority setting, we're actually going to let people vote and say, of these strategies, here are the things that are most important. And this is where you should spend your money soonest. So I think that that's very important. And then that all will get presented to the city council. And we hope that there are a few people who've attended the sessions who will come to council and actually say, this is what we did. I don't want it to come from me, because really these aren't my ideas, these are your ideas. So with that, if there are other folks that you would like to invite, you can let us know and we'll do that. We want to be as inclusive as possible in all of this. I think we sent out about 150 invitations to people to participate in this. But there are always other individuals that we may not be thinking of, and so we're not excluding anyone on this. I want to thank my colleagues, Mr. Harris, Mr. Garrett, for coming today. I think this is important. We just need to be able to really listen and go forward with that. So with that, I think that is all today. We're going to give you a gift of 8 minutes of time. So we're not taking your full 2 hours, but if I can get Scott and my staff to hang out, we'll do a quick debrief here and then move forward. So thank you very much. Stay safe. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you all.
And even
Good
city
job.
staff, if city staff want to stick around too, Megan and Denise.
That'd be
Leslie,
great.
And
Thank
Lynette.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.